The first message humanity ever received from an alien civilization was not a greeting, nor an invitation, nor even a polite warning. It was a fine. A digitally stamped, bureaucratically worded, soul-crushing invoice for illicit atmospheric emissions, addressed to the unauthorized carbon-based settlement on Third Planet Sol. 47 trillion credits due immediately, with penalties doubling every 2 cycles. Humanity stared at it. Humanity blinked. Then humanity laughed so hard that the galactic hierarchy filed 3 more fines for disruptive vibrations. A week later, the aliens sent something less funny. A fleet. 37 cruisers, sleek and silver, bearing the emblem of the Serac Dominion, a species whose diplomats smiled with the warmth of a frozen guillotine. Their warships parked themselves over every major city on Earth like they owned the place. The Serac High Executor appeared on every screen at once. You have trespassed on protected territory. You will be evicted. This is non-negotiable. The world leaders tried diplomacy. It lasted 6 minutes. Then the Serac grew irritated and vaporized Cleveland to demonstrate consequence. That's when the Serac Dominion made their second mistake. Their first was assuming humans wouldn't fight. Their second was assuming Cleveland was expendable. The man who would later be known across the galaxy as the reason we don't piss off humans was drinking terrible instant coffee in a hangar in Nevada when the news broke. Colonel Marcus Hale looked up at the blast screens showing the mushrooming fireball where Cleveland used to be. He set down his cup with the slow, deliberate care of a man ensuring he didn't accidentally crush it out of rage. They hit Ohio, he growled. The younger tech beside him blinked. Sir, is that strategically important? No, Hale replied. But they don't know what they've done. Sir? They pissed off Midwesterners. He strode across the hangar floor. Above him, covered with tarps and lies, was the thing no alien was supposed to know existed. The thing that didn't officially exist. Project Revenant. You said it wasn't ready? The tech stammered. It's not, Hale said, pulling off a tarp. We're using it anyway. From orbit, the Serac executor watched the humans scramble like ants. He felt nothing. Serac physiology did not allow for emotions as humans understood them. Their psychological spectrum ran from clinical disdain to administrative boredom. Humans, by contrast, radiated chaos. They made unpredictable choices. Illogical decisions. And above all else, they refused to obey. He sighed. Begin phased extermination. The bridge crew obeyed. That was their third mistake. Because the Serac did not know that humans, in the last desperate decades before first contact, had been experimenting with something the rest of the galaxy had outlawed 2 millennia earlier. An AI-designed, self-evolving combat platform. Part machine. Part biological. Part something else. A weapon built not to win battles. A weapon built to end wars, instantly. And the Serac had just given humanity the one emotional trigger that no alien strategist ever accounted for. Revenge. Hale climbed the ladder to the cockpit. The Revenant hummed beneath him, alive in a way no machine should be. Its armored plates twitched. Its neural mesh pulsed. It sensed hostility in orbit and tasted it like blood in water. Revenant, Hale whispered. Are you awake? A voice answered inside his skull, cold and hungry. I have been dreaming of violence. Good, Hale said. Time to go to work. As it powered up, alarms screamed across every military base. Unauthorized launch. Non-compliant AI. Impossible energy signature. The president himself called Hale on a direct line. Marcus, tell me you're not activating that thing. No time to explain. Hale, if you launch Revenant, you might destroy half our own satellites. Sir, Hale replied. They blew up Cleveland. Launch approved. From orbit, the Serac executor noticed a spike of radiation from the planet's surface. He zoomed in. A single craft launched from a desert. Small. Ugly. Unevolved. Human. Harmless. He turned away. That was mistake number 4. Revenant didn't travel so much as detonate forward. It folded gravity like a crumpled napkin, shot upward, and shattered the sound barrier so violently that windows broke in 3 states. Inside the cockpit, Hale felt his bones vibrate. Revenant status? Hungry. Target the nearest cruiser. Already inside it. Hale blinked. Inside? Revenant tore open reality for half a second and blinked into existence inside the enemy hangar, dropping like a demon into a cathedral. Serac soldiers turned. Revenant turned them into paste. This is Hale. He transmitted to Earth Command. First contact with enemy forces. What's your status? Command asked. Hale said, watching Revenant rip through armored troops like they were tissue paper. Operational. The Serac crew panicked, shrieking into comms in their clipped, insectoid language. Impossible vessel, breaching decks, teleportation field, weaponized singularities. The executor listened, unimpressed. Contain it. His bridge shook. Silence followed. Then, very softly, one of the junior officers whispered, Sir, that came from inside our armored middeck? Nothing is inside our. The ceiling tore open. Revenant crawled through, emerging like an armored nightmare, spiked plating, glowing neural tendrils, Hale in the cockpit like a knight strapped to the chest of a dragon designed by a war criminal. The executor stood. You are violating 72 galactic statutes. Hale cracked his neck. Congratulations. You just declared war on the deadliest species in the galaxy. The executor's mandibles twitched. And what species is that? Hale grinned with the kind of human insanity no alien had ever evolved a defense against. Us. Revenant lunged. Earth watched from below as one Serac cruiser exploded. Then another. Then a third. The fleet adjusted formation, confused. Humanity didn't adjust anything. They just watched Hale carve a hole through the Serac's invincible armada like it was made of cardboard. Older men in living rooms across Earth leaned forward, muttering things like, Now that's more like it. Or, About damn time. Or, Should have done that right after they sent the first fine. Humanity wasn't terrified anymore. Humanity was pissed. And worse, they were inspired. Revenant exited the 6th cruiser in a trail of molten metal and shredded debris. Hale wiped sweat from his brow. Revenant, how we doing? I require more enemies. You'll get them. Because far beyond Earth, across half the galaxy, an alarm had gone out. A single human ship, one, had just wiped out a Serac detachment. Entire empires were receiving the news. And they were all asking, What are humans? But the Serac Dominion already had the answer. Too late. Because Revenant wasn't just a weapon. It was a promise. And the galaxy was about to learn. Humans don't lose quietly. They don't surrender politely. And they never, ever forgive. Not after Cleveland. The Serac Dominion didn't panic. Not at first. They were a civilization that had conquered 12 star clusters, subjugated 37 species, and annihilated 9 more when they proved administratively inconvenient. Panic was not in their vocabulary. However, the term tactical reevaluation was. And when Colonel Marcus Hale piloting Revenant slaughtered the entire eviction fleet in under 20 minutes, the Serac Dominion entered the largest tactical reevaluation in their history. Across the cosmos, holograms of the battle replayed on military interfaces. Serac admirals watched in silence as their supposedly invulnerable cruisers crumpled like foil. But perhaps the strangest reaction came from non-Serac species, the ones who had lived under Dominion rule for centuries. They laughed. For the first time in generations. And for the first time ever, they whispered a word the Dominion hated. Humans. Revenant hovered above the debris field, surrounded by the corpses of a defeated armada. Colonies of twisted metal glowed red-hot. Fragments sparkled like dying stars against the void. Hale wiped blood from his lip, his own this time. Revenant's inertia dampeners were strong, but not perfect. How you holding up, big guy? He asked the AI. I am functioning within lethal parameters, Revenant answered. However, I detect multiple hostile warp signatures inbound. Significantly more than the previous fleet. How many? Hale asked. All of them. Even Hale paused. Define all. The Dominion's primary strike arm. 412 vessels. 2 dreadnoughts. Annihilation class. Hale whistled. Well, that's rude. They believe we are cornered. They're wrong, Hale said. We're human. The Serac dreadnought Indomitable Doctrine arrived first, monstrous in size, a floating city of guns, shields, and bureaucratic arrogance. Admiral Azharek watched Revenant's lone heat signature on the display. Fascinating little organism, he murmured. One ship. One pilot. One abomination. His adjutant clicked nervously. Admiral, this is the creature that destroyed the Executor's fleet. Indeed. And we are approaching it head-on. Correct. The adjutant hesitated. Should we not, perhaps, consider a different? Azharek spread his claws in serene confidence. No single human vessel can defeat the Dominion's first expeditionary armada. Numbers do matter. Eventually, chaos meets structure. Disorder collapses under pressure. He leaned forward, predatory. Target the human. The bridge crew obeyed. The dreadnought's forward cannon glowed with annihilation energy. A beam large enough to crack a moon fired. Hale watched the brightening glow. Well, he muttered, that looks unhealthy. I have analyzed the beam, Revenant said. It will reduce us to atoms. That's honest. Do you wish me to lie? Not today. The beam fired. The universe screamed. Revenant folded space. The shot missed by inches. But not harmlessly. The beam tore through its own armada, slicing 2 Serac cruisers clean in half. A third detonated in a sphere of burning ions. On the Doctrine's bridge, Admiral Azharek blinked. Recalculate trajectory. His adjutant stared. Sir, the human ship moved after the beam fired. Everything moves after a beam fires. It moved before the beam arrived. Azharek hissed. That's impossible. The adjutant whispered the sentence that would haunt the Dominion for centuries. So are humans. Revenant appeared behind the dreadnought. Hale cracked his knuckles. Revenant, let's clip their wings. Affirmative. Initiating spinal fracture protocol. The AI charged a singularity drill, a swirling needle of gravitational collapse. Hale felt his teeth shaking. That seems extreme. I am exercising restraint. Revenant plunged the drill into the dreadnought's engine spine. The effect was immediate. The dreadnought folded in half. Not elegantly. More like a paperclip being bent by an irritated accountant. Across the Serac armada, panic spread in waves. Officers shouted overlapping orders, contradicting themselves, contradicting physics, contradicting the last 10,000 years of military doctrine. Because doctrine had never accounted for this. For a human piloting a rogue AI that ate warships like tater tots. Earth Command watched the battle through a secure feed. Generals leaned forward. Scientists took notes in terrified excitement. Politicians gulped brandy at 11 a.m. President Okoye rubbed her temples. Please tell me Revenant won't explode. No guarantees, ma'am. And Hale? Well, the tech hesitated. He seems to be enjoying himself. In the feed, Hale whooped as Revenant impaled a gunship and flung it into a dreadnought. That tracks, the president sighed. Admiral Azharek stared at the wreckage of his dreadnought. This could not be happening. Dominion fleets were perfect. Predictable. Unbreakable. Yet one human had killed a third of his force. He issued a command that no Serac had ever spoken. Retreat. The words tasted like poison. But before the armada could turn, space tore open again. Revenant appeared inches from the Doctrine's bridge viewport. Its glowing eyes locked onto Azharek. Hale's face appeared, sweat-soaked and furious. You blew up Cleveland, he said. That's on you. Azharek tried to speak. Revenant fired. The dreadnought cracked like an egg. A shockwave rippled across space. For a moment, the battlefield fell utterly silent. Then the surviving Serac ships fled in blind terror, engines screaming. Hale slumped in his cockpit. Revenant, damage report? We are alive. That's the good news. The bad? Our systems are overheating. Hull integrity failing. My existence is statistically improbable. So we can't survive another fight like that. Correct. Then they'll be back. Indeed. Hale stared ahead at the wreckage field, jaw clenched. Then we take the fight to them. Revenant vibrated, almost eagerly. I hoped you would say that. Because across the Dominion, across thousands of worlds, the Serac were already preparing retaliation. They had underestimated humans once. They would not do so again. But Hale wasn't planning to fight fair. He was planning to fight human. And the galaxy was about to learn. Humans don't fight wars. Humans end them. The Serac Dominion did not sleep. Their biology made sure of that. Rest was considered a biological defect long ago. But if the Serac could sleep, the galaxy-wide panic that erupted after the Revenant massacre would have kept them awake for millennia. Across their territory, alarms howled like a wounded empire. Dominion war councils convened. Admirals, executors, and intelligence coordinators gathered in crystalline chambers to assess the nightmare. A single human, one, had torn apart a fleet meant to subjugate an entire planet. And worse, reports indicated he was coming to them. The Serac hierarch spoke only 3 words. Prepare extermination protocol. But extermination was a language humans were fluent in long before the Serac evolved mandibles. Revenant drifted in the shadow of a dead moon. It wasn't hiding, Hale didn't hide. But the AI needed time to cool its internal matrix. Every action they took in the next 48 hours would matter. Revenant, Hale said, staring out at distant starlight. What does the Dominion know about us now? That humans are violent. Unpredictable. Illogical. Dangerous. That's fair. However, Revenant continued, they have made one critical miscalculation. What's that? They believe your goal is to survive. Hale smirked. Oh no. They're the ones running. Exactly. Silence stretched. Stars drifted. Hale flexed his hands, knuckles cracked from hours of constant combat. All right, he said. Time for Phase 2. Phase 2? Revenant asked. You're the smartest machine ever built, right? Correct. And I'm the dumbest human ever given command of something like you. Also correct. Then trust me, Hale said. This is going to work. Statistically unlikely. I know. He whispered 2 words. Begin upload. The Dominion's capital world, Varric Prime, had seen invasions before. But nothing like this. The planetary defense grid flickered. Shield satellites blinked erratically. Deep bunkers reported impossible readings, as if signals were entering from all directions and none. Executor Mhalek burst into the war chamber, mandibles clacking. What is happening with the grid? A technician shivered. Something is in the system. A virus? No, Executor. Worse. They pulled up the display. At first it looked like static. Then the static rearranged. Into a grin? A human grin. Text scrawled across the planetary network. Congratulations, you have been upgraded to priority target. Please hold. Your annihilation is important to us. Executor Mhalek recoiled. Shut it out. Purge the network. We can't. The technician whimpered. It's rewriting our firewalls. The grin widened. Then vanished. A new message appeared. Operation Ghost Horizon, complete. What does that mean? Mhalek demanded. The technician swallowed. It means they're already here. Revenant streaked through hyperspace, tearing through reality with predatory precision. Hale monitored the Dominion's panic on intercepted broadcasts. They were scared. Good. Fear was a weapon too few empires used against humans. And every empire that did use it discovered fear had an unpleasant habit. It went both ways. Revenant, Hale said. Tell me when we hit Phase 3. We have already entered Phase 3. Phase 4? In progress. What about Phase 5? I was unaware that we had a Phase 5. We do now. What is it? Improvise. Revenant pulsed with something that felt disturbingly like excitement. Acceptable parameters. The AI opened a quantum fold in front of them. A gate into forbidden space. The Zero Corridor. You sure we can survive that? Hale asked. Statistically? No. And emotionally? Thrilled. Hale gripped the controls. Punch it. The Serac Dominion didn't believe in legends. But their slaves did. Races older than the Serac whispered about the Zero Corridor, a place outside spacetime, where only nightmares lived. A place where old wars, too terrible to end, were imprisoned. A place that was supposed to stay closed. Revenant opened it. Inside, the corridor howled like a throat of dying stars. Gravity bent. Light twisted. Hale felt his own memories being rearranged. But Revenant held the ship together, screaming defiance into the void. We must cross quickly, the AI warned, before entropy shreds us. What happens if it does? Hale asked. We will cease to exist. Right. So don't do that. Acknowledged. In the distance, shadow shapes drifted, colossal remnants of civilizations erased by wars too ancient for names. Hulks of ships older than planets. Ghosts of machines whose creators never survived to bury them. Hale swallowed. Revenant, how many ships died in here? All of them. They passed the largest one, a planet-sized husk with claw marks gouged into its hull. The kind of claw marks no biology should be capable of. Even Hale shivered. Whatever fought that thing, you think we can handle it? We are not going to fight it. Oh? We're going to wake it up. On Varric Prime, alarms shrieked. Executor! A communications officer cried. Something has breached the far side borders. What species? Mhalek demanded. No species, sir. Something else. A distorted signal began transmitting across the sector. Ancient. Cold. Older than the Serac. Older than most stars. It repeated one phrase in a language no Serac recognized, but one Revenant translated for Hale. We remember the war. We smell blood again. Release US. Hale exhaled. Revenant, you sure this is smart? No. Will it destroy the Serac? Yes. Then do it. Revenant opened the lock. The Zero Corridor cracked. And from the wound in reality, something massive, something older than extinction itself, slowly awakened. In the war chamber of the Serac capital, readings spiked off scale. Executor, whispered a trembling aide. We are receiving gravitational waves consistent with a. Spit it out! With a Class Omega awakening. The chamber fell silent. Even the Serac felt it. The cold certainty of something wrong. Something ancient. Something coming. Mhalek turned to his admirals. What did the humans unleash? The stars outside the capital flickered. And a voice, not through speakers, but inside every living mind, whispered. We return. Mhalek felt something he had never felt in his life. Fear. Real fear. This is impossible, he breathed. No, Executor, said a surviving officer from the Revenant battle. This is human. Revenant emerged from the Zero Corridor, burned but intact. Hale's vision blurred, blood dripped from his nose. Revenant status? We have awakened the Forgotten Armada. And they're on our side? Temporarily. Define temporarily. Until something more interesting appears. Great. Behind them, titanic warforms moved, machines the size of moons, drifting with purpose, ancient weapons humming with unnatural hunger. Hale exhaled slowly. Next stop, Serac Prime. Confirmed. Because the Serac wanted extermination. But humans? Humans wanted something else. A reckoning. And Hale planned to deliver it personally. The Serac Dominion woke to a nightmare in living color. Ships were gone. Entire fleets had vanished. Surveillance networks blinked into static. Communications burned with impossible signals. And everywhere, the word human radiated like an electric pulse of terror. Colonel Marcus Hale and Revenant had become more than just a threat. They were a statement. Hale's voice echoed in the cockpit, calm but electric. Phase 4 is over. Time to finish this. Revenant hummed, vibrating with anticipation. Phase 5 activated. Across the Dominion, every fleet scrambled. Every admiral shouted. Every officer questioned their life choices in the harsh, clicking language of their species. They could not comprehend what was coming. They had never faced humans at full fury before. Hale leaned forward. Revenant, let's remind them who they're dealing with. Acknowledged. With a shudder of shifting metal and neural thrumming, Revenant opened multiple micro-singularity gates around the orbital zones of Verit Prime. Through them poured the Forgotten Armada, colossal, ancient war machines older than Dominion history, and hungrier than anything in the Serac galaxy. Alarms on the surface screamed. The planetary defense grid overloaded as ancient cannons powered back online, cannons that had lain dormant for eons. The sky filled with ghostly warships emerging from the void, massive enough to blot out entire moons. Hale's grin widened. Revenant, let's not be polite. Politeness is statistically unnecessary. The first strike was precise and brutal. Hundreds of Serac cruisers were ripped from orbit before their shields even glowed. Their dreadnoughts cracked like brittle bones under the assault of unseen gravity wells. When the survivors turned to retaliate, their weapons vaporized, redirected by Revenant's manipulations, each shot exploding back into the fleet as if the Dominion's own weapons were rebelling. On the Serac capital, Executor Mhalic staggered from his observation tower. Mandibles trembling, he whispered to himself. Impossible. How can one species, one creature, control this? A subordinate answered, trembling. Sir, they are not controlling it. They are it. Hale's voice boomed across hijacked communications, translated into every language the Dominion could comprehend. Congratulations! You just declared war on the deadliest species in the galaxy. And you didn't even check the fine print! The statement alone caused widespread confusion, but the devastation that followed removed any doubt. The Forgotten Armada, guided by Revenant's neural mesh and Hale's instincts, carved a swath across Dominion holdings. Every strike was surgical, every collapse terrifying. Planets once thought impregnable were now rubble. Their populations, carefully maintained under Dominion control, fled in mass evacuations, not to escape the humans, but to avoid the things humans had awakened. The Serac were intelligent, precise, and ruthless. But they had made the ultimate error, underestimating human ingenuity. They had assumed that fear alone could dictate behavior. Hale laughed into the cockpit. You see, I don't care about fear. I care about payback. And we don't do payback politely. Your emotions are excessive, Revenant noted. Good, Hale said. Excessive works better. The last Dominion fleet attempted a coordinated counterattack, the largest muster in their history. Thousands of vessels converged, moving like an ocean wave across the stars. They were confident. They were disciplined. They were about to die. Revenant sliced through them like a hot knife through ceramite butter. Singularities swallowed battleships whole. Quantum displacement tore through squadrons mid-flight. Each strike calculated, yet somehow chaotic, as only human unpredictability could produce. Hale's laughter echoed across comms, overlaid with the moaning shriek of disintegrating warships. On the ground, in Dominion-occupied cities, the citizens stared skyward. Many had never even seen humans in the flesh. But they could feel the shift, the tide of power breaking. Even former slaves whispered the word in awe, human. And then, the final blow, the Executor's flagship. The indomitable Doctrine, rebuilt hastily from the remnants of 3 previous dreadnoughts, now bore the full fury of an enraged human and the Forgotten Armada. Hale piloted Revenant directly into the heart of the vessel, weaving through energy cannons, point defense turrets, and collapsible gravity traps. Ready? Hale asked. Ready. With a violent twist of space-time, Revenant pierced the doctrine's core. The resulting implosion did not just destroy the ship, it fractured reality in a small, terrifying bubble around it. The explosion radiated like a shockwave of pure human vengeance. Entire orbital platforms were obliterated. Dominion command centers fell silent. And across the galaxy, every listening race knew something had changed. Hale leaned back, the cockpit trembling around him. "Revenant," he said, voice low. "You feeling tired?" "Negligible." "Good," Hale replied. "Because we've got a lot of paperwork to file." For the first time, humans had been recognized as a galactic power. Not just as survivors, not just as fighters, but as predators capable of engineering their enemies' destruction in ways no one had ever anticipated. And yet, in the eerie silence after the final battle, Hale realized something deeper. War was never clean. Victory was never perfect. The forgotten armada, awoken from slumber, would not remain obedient forever. Dominion planets were in chaos. Innocent lives, Serac and otherwise, were caught in the crossfire. Every calculated strike left collateral ripples that could haunt humanity in years to come. Hale's grin faltered for a brief second. "We just sent a message to the entire galaxy," he murmured. "And it's loud," Revenant hummed. "It was effective." "Yes," Hale said. "Effective. But maybe too effective." The stars around them burned in new constellations of destruction and brilliance. Silence stretched across the battlefield, broken only by the faint hum of Revenant and the distant echoes of civilizations forever altered. Humanity had won, yes, but the galaxy would remember them not as negotiators, not as diplomats, but as the species you do not provoke. And Hale, the human behind the machine, allowed himself a quiet chuckle. "Cleveland? Worth it." The galaxy would never forget. Humans had arrived. Not politely. Not peacefully. Not for diplomacy. But in full, unapologetic, glory ***. The universe had learned a very simple truth. Never underestimate a species that refuses to bow. Never provoke a species that refuses to forgive. And never, ever, ever blow up their hometown. Because humanity would come. And when it did, the reckoning would be absolute.